Dearest viewer, pray lend thine ear, for tonight we unveil a most dreadful tale. Imagine, if thou wilt, laying a loved one to rest beneath cold earth, mourning until thy tears run dry, only to discover years later that the departed yet walks this mortal realm. Such is the scandal that gripped the counties of our fair land. A gentleman declared dead, a funeral held in solemn grace, a widow left broken-hearted. Yet fate, ever mischievous, revealed a crueler truth. The man lived still, breathing, loving, laughing in another city. And when discovered, he vanished like mist upon morning grass. Our story commences in the quiet borough of Ashcombe, where Mr. Theodore Wycliffe, esteemed architect and devoted husband, resided with his wife, Mrs. Eleanor Wycliffe. In the autumn of 1812, Theodore departed his home for a journey to secure business in a neighboring county. Rain fell in violent sheets that night, thunder cracking as if heaven itself protested his travel. He never arrived. His carriage was found overturned beside a ravine, horses scattered, lantern extinguished. Of Theodore Wycliffe, no sign remained but a single bloodied glove upon the rocks below. Search parties scoured the ravine for days. When at last a body was recovered from the river downstream, battered beyond recognition, the physician declared it Theodore by stature and clothing. No family dared question further. Eleanor received the news with a cry that echoed through the manor halls. Preparations for burial began at once. Bells tolled. Black drapes hung from every window. The coffin was sealed tight, for the body was deemed unfit for viewing. Thus, Theodore Wycliffe was laid to rest beneath a marble stone bearing his noble name. Eleanor mourned with unwavering devotion. Each morning she placed fresh flowers upon his grave, whispering prayers to a man she believed forever gone. Their young son Edmund, scarcely 6 years of age, would ask when father might return from heaven. Eleanor had no answer, only tears. Over time, grief became her companion, and the household learned to live in the shadow of absence. Yet there lingered one peculiar detail. Theodore's signet ring, which he never removed, was never recovered. Some called it a minor oversight. Fate, however, had grander designs. 5 years passed. In the bustling city of Ravenshire, far from Ashcombe's gentle hills, a stranger arrived. He called himself Mr. Nathaniel Crowe, a merchant of refined manners and curious silence. He rented a handsome townhouse, spoke with cultivated eloquence, and carried himself as one of breeding. Society welcomed him swiftly. Within a year, he courted Miss Arabella Finch, daughter of a wealthy trader. Their marriage was celebrated with music and champagne. In time, children blessed their union. Nathaniel Crowe, it seemed, had built a new life of enviable perfection. Yet secrets are patient creatures. One spring afternoon, a traveling portrait artist passed through Ravenshire, offering likenesses to noble families. When Arabella requested her husband's portrait, the artist paused mid-sketch, studying Nathaniel's features with uneasy recognition. Later that evening, he rummaged through old sketchbooks from years past, recalling a commission once given in Ashcombe. There it was, Theodore Wycliffe, drawn in youth. The resemblance was undeniable. The artist trembled, sensing he had glimpsed a ghost dressed in living flesh. The artist, torn between fear and conscience, wrote to Eleanor Wycliffe. He enclosed a small painted copy of Nathaniel Crowe's portrait and asked whether she might know the man. Days later, Eleanor opened the letter. The color drained from her face. There, upon the paper, smiled the man she had buried. Same eyes, same brow, same scar near the temple earned in childhood. Her hands shook so violently, she dropped the portrait to the floor. Edmund, now a boy of 11, picked it up and whispered, "Mother, that is father." Driven by grief and fury alike, Eleanor traveled to Ravenshire. She observed Nathaniel Crowe from a distance, hidden beneath a veil. She watched him lift his children, kiss his wife, laugh with neighbors. Each gesture was painfully familiar. The voice carried on the wind matched that which once filled her home. Eleanor's knees nearly failed her. The dead lived. The impossible stood before her eyes. She resolved to confront him, but wisdom urged caution. One must gather proof before accusing a man risen from the grave. Eleanor sought assistance from Inspector Hawthorne, a methodical man of law. Together they examined the records of Theodore's death. Curiously, the attending coroner had signed the certificate in hurried script. The body had been buried swiftly. No second examination. No preserved remains. Hawthorne frowned upon the inconsistencies. He agreed to accompany Eleanor to Ravenshire to question Nathaniel Crowe discreetly. They arranged a polite visit to Crowe's home under the guise of business. Nathaniel welcomed them graciously, offering tea with steady hands. Yet when Eleanor removed her veil, silence struck the room like lightning. Nathaniel's cup trembled ever so slightly. Their eyes met. For a moment, time ceased. Eleanor whispered, "Theodore." Nathaniel forced a smile. "Madam, I fear you mistake me." His voice remained calm, yet a flicker of terror betrayed him. Inspector Hawthorne requested Nathaniel's signature upon a document, comparing it later with Theodore's archived handwriting. The match was exact. Hawthorne also noted a faint indentation upon Nathaniel's finger, where a signet ring once sat. Evidence grew heavy. The inspector arranged for Nathaniel's arrest the following dawn, intending to uncover the truth behind this miraculous resurrection. But when officers arrived at Crowe's residence at sunrise, the house stood silent and empty. Beds unslept in, clothing gone, children's toys missing. Carriages had departed before daylight. Neighbors swore they heard wheels rolling in the night, but thought nothing of it. Nathaniel Crowe, Arabella and the children had vanished without trace. Once more, the man who died had slipped into nothingness. Panic swept Ravenshire. Authorities searched roads, inns, ports, and railway stations. No sighting, no luggage registered, no letters sent. Nathaniel Crowe had dissolved into thin air. Eleanor, broken anew, wept in Hawthorne's office. She had found her husband alive only to lose him again to mystery. Weeks later, Hawthorne uncovered a startling revelation. The identity of Nathaniel Crowe belonged to a stillborn infant recorded decades earlier in a distant parish. Someone had stolen the dead child's name to create a living man. Theodore Wycliffe had not merely faked death. He had donned the skin of another ghost. Hawthorne theorized a grand conspiracy. Perhaps Theodore had discovered dangerous knowledge in his architectural work, plans of forbidden tunnels, smuggling routes, or secrets of the crown. Perhaps powerful men desired his silence, arranging a false death, or perhaps Theodore himself orchestrated it, fleeing debts or darker crimes. Motive remained uncertain, truth buried deeper than any grave. Eleanor received a letter one night, sealed with no crest. Inside lay only 3 words: "Forgive me, live well," no signature, no address. Her heart knew the hand that wrote it. Theodore lived, yet he chose distance over reunion. Whether out of love or fear, she could not know. In time, Arabella Crowe too sent word. She claimed her husband kissed her forehead one night and said, "I must go before they come." He left without another explanation. She never saw him again. Thus, two women mourned the same man, each in different cities, each bound by a husband who lived between life and death. Years rolled onward. Sightings of Theodore, now under various names, surfaced across distant counties. A merchant in Bristol, a sailor in Portsmouth, a gentleman in Bath, always just beyond reach, always vanished before inquiry. Some whispered he had become a spy for the crown. Others claimed he belonged to secret societies. The church murmured of a soul cursed to wander for deceiving death. Children dared one another to visit his grave in Ashcombe, where fresh flowers appeared each spring, though no hand was ever seen placing them. Eleanor never remarried. She kept Theodore's study preserved, his books untouched, his chair facing the fire. Edmund grew to manhood believing his father lived somewhere in the world, watching from shadows. He vowed to find him one day and asked the question that haunted them all. Why? Inspector Hawthorne retired, yet kept the Wycliffe file locked in his desk. Upon his death, the file disappeared. Some say a stranger visited his study the night before he passed, taking the documents. No servant saw the visitor's face. Decades later, a traveler sketched a man in a coastal village selling carved trinkets. The man bore a familiar scar near his temple. He wore no ring. He answered to no name. When asked where he came from, he replied only, "From a life already buried." The traveler returned with others the following day. The stall stood empty. Footprints led to the shore, where the tide washed them away. Boats were questioned. No one recalled such a man. The sea kept its secrets. Thus, Theodore Wycliffe became legend. A gentleman who died, lived anew, and vanished whenever truth approached. Some say he walks still, under yet another name, raising children in another city, building another life upon another lie. Others believe he died long ago, and that all sightings are mere echoes of grief and imagination. Yet Eleanor's grave bears an inscription she requested before passing. He lived, he loved, he vanished. My heart knows his truth. Edmund grew old, never ceasing his search. Upon his deathbed, he whispered that a stranger once watched him from across a marketplace, eyes full of sorrow and pride. When Edmund turned to call out, the man was gone. Whether Theodore fled danger, guilt, or destiny remains unknown. But one fact endures. He escaped death only to become prisoner of secrecy, a man forever running from the life he left behind. His story reminds us that death is not always the end. Sometimes it is merely the beginning of a darker tale. Records may declare a man deceased, but the heart knows when a spirit yet walks the earth. And so, in Ashcombe's quiet churchyard, beneath the stone carved Theodore Wycliffe, beloved husband, lies an empty grave, a monument not to death, but to deception. Dear viewer, as you retire this night, glance twice upon strangers in the crowd. For somewhere among them may walk a man who has already been mourned, already been buried, and already escaped the grave. Dead or alive, some mysteries are never meant to be solved.